Hello everyone, I'm Kibitz and welcome to Satisfactory, where today I'm gonna go over the starter locations and kind of talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with each, and tell you guys where I think the best starting location in the game is. And of course, remember to leave a like and subscribe, because I have thousands of hours in the game, do tons of tutorials and stuff like that, and my Let's Play is pretty spicy, and you can learn a lot from it as well. But let's get started here. And right off the bat, you need to understand that the Satisfactory world is one giant world, and that your starting places here are areas of the map. So if you start in the grass fields, you can go over to the Dune Desert. You can go in between and to all these different places. So all the stuff is available to you in the game, but the game plays extremely differently depending on where you actually decide to start. So there's the grass fields, the northern forest, the Dune Desert, and the rocky desert. So most people start in the grass fields, so we're gonna start there too. And I'll go over some pros and cons. So welcome to the green fields. This is one of the starting locations most players decide to do their first playthrough in, and it is a good place. From a general overview here, you can see that you have plenty of space to work with. There's not a lot of huge obstacles, and there are resource nodes absolutely everywhere. Also, once you get settled down and you get your hub placed somewhere, this area is really nice because it has a lot of foliage to run around and grab, because all you have to power your bees are some biomass burners. So all while you're working around, you gotta be grabbing leaves all over the place, and there are leaves all over the place, so that's not really an issue here. And then as you expand from your starter bees, there are plenty of natural roads just around this area. So all of like the kind of tan lines you see around are nice places for trucks to drive. So you could have trucks and tractors moving and grooving all over the place, gathering all the resources you need, and you don't have to set up like concrete foundations or anything like that. And oh man, you're gonna be having to use these roads, because the good news about this spot is kind of already through now. This spot is actually very difficult for transitioning over to the mid game, and especially the late game. There are a lot of resources around here, but the key resources you need, like Caterium and oil, are super far away. So you're gonna be having to set up truck lines, belt bridges, trains, and all the jazz to get all the other things you need. Also, there are 3 types of resource nodes in the game: impure, normal, and pure. With the impure resource nodes giving about 30 items per minute, normal giving 60, and then pure give 120. But the problem with the Green Hills starting area is most of the nodes are impure, so they're really hard to work with. For example, there are 8 iron nodes right down here, and guess what? All of them are impure. Impure nodes everywhere. So you can use them, but just way more difficult to do so. Then with update 3, water is essential in building your factories and getting into coal power. And as you can probably notice, there's like no water around here. You have to either go way out to the waterfalls over in that direction, or use this dinky little puddle, or this other dinky little puddle way over here. Case in point being, you just have to have a lot of infrastructure just spread out throughout the world. Truck lines everywhere are belt bridges all over the place. But again, that's kind of good for learning. But then generally speaking, that's all the pros and cons of this starting biome. So let's move on to the northern forest start. And oh boy, this is a beautiful starting area. Foliage everywhere, beautiful like willow trees, beans, moving and grooving all over the place. And unlike the Green Hill start, there are pure nodes aplenty. Pretty much there's only pure nodes all around you. So this is a great place to build a base and then constantly upgrade it. Also, a lot of the resources are really close together. So you have like a ton of iron right there, you have your limestone, copper right over on the hill there, and you have a decent little chunk of space to actually do things as well. But things get even better here, because if you just follow one of the roads off to the left here, so this one, and just go all the way down and follow it through all of the woods, you can end up at one of the best starting locations in the game, which is right over here. So it's quite a trip down the road, but it will be super worth it. Because right here you have all the same benefits as before. You have all of your pure nodes, you have all of the nodes you need really close together here, and also you have all the late game nodes close by too. So for example, there's quartz, literally next door here, there's oil, just over the hill, in that little corner. And probably most importantly, your coal is right next door and next to water. So you'd have to kind of like walk through here, go through all the madness, watch out for piggies down here. They're not nice. But then once you get past him, you go off to the right and you have 4 normal coal nodes. And they're right next to a huge water source. So there you go. Easiest place to set up a mega coal power plant. Or even better, there's a pure iron node right next door as well to all the nodes. So you can get on your steel production really quick too. And then not only that, just a few feet over in this direction, through the woods and up the hill, you have a Caterium node. You'll have to blow it up with some C4, but hey, it's right there. And then, guess what? There's another one right next door that you don't have to blow up. So you have 2 Caterium nodes, 2 quartz nodes, oil, all of the coal in the world, pure nodes to start with, like, oh boy. You can do a lot in this starter biome. Again, that's if you move to this area. Of course though, there are some cons with it. So if you start here and want to move to that other location, it's a pretty dangerous journey, especially when you only have like the basic tools. Also, infrastructure is generally a nightmare. There's a ton of foliage you're gonna have to clear out. There's only one natural road through the area, so the rest you'll have to build yourself, which is And just generally speaking, beast building around this area is gonna be tough. Like, you have lots of water, but it's all over the place, so you really have to plan out how you want to go about things. But I guess you could do some kind of like terraced base on this hillside here, or something along those lines, but you're gonna have to think about it for a little bit. And now from all of that, we move over to the Dune Desert. Oh boy, this place is quite the opposite of what I just showed. There is very little foliage, because you know, it's a desert, right? But oh my goodness, there is so much space for you to do things. Like, this is the place if you want to set up like a mega base or like a giant fortress or something like that. Also, there's an abundance of resources here. Nodes aplenty, nodes across the sky. A lot of them too are pure and normal nodes. But then that's about it. Everything else is desolate in the area. There's very little water. Like, there's a little pond here. Through all the forest down this way, you can find some coal nodes next to a tiny drop of water as well. And then way over on the other side of the biome, through all of these cliffs and dangers, you end up over here at a beach, which also is a good place to start up like a coal plant or something. But the main thing is everything is super, super far apart. And the terrain is not good for trucks. So you're gonna have a time and a half with that. Also, another quote-unquote feature of this biome is you are pretty much locked in. There's this wall that is stopping you from getting out into the other biomes, and there are lots of very bad things guarding your path. And there's no good paths for like trucks. Like, maybe you could barely fit a truck through there, or maybe you could go through there. This area is all gassed up, so you'd have to have a gas mask or just YOLO it. And there is one relatively decent small road through this way, but immediately, enemies. So once you start in the desert, you're kind of stuck in the desert for a long time. But once you get out though, there are vast amounts of resources. So you already have all of that iron, then there's a ton of quartz right over here, and then beside the desert, there's one of the biggest patches of oil in the game along the beach. Through these cliffs here, you can already start to see all those nodes. It's beautiful. And also, for better or worse, you're really close to the swamp biome. And this swamp area is a late game place that is horrifically dangerous, but it has all the late game important stuff right next to your base, so you don't need to set up like a super massive train network. But then you do have to set up infrastructure through here, so it's like, it's rough. Though this is the place that I'm starting my current playthrough, so I'm building my mega base in the middle of the desert here, and I'm trying to quote unquote process the world. So again, remember to subscribe and check that out. But also, if you are starting here yourself, because you just like the look of it or something, I found a pretty good place to start is right here, at the transition point between the forest and like just the dunes. So along these cliffs, you have a couple nice iron nodes, you have some copper nodes right behind you, limestone's pretty close by, and also there's a nice straight shot from the hub right to this water source, and also to the beach, where you can make your coal plant. Or maybe instead of there, you can move all the way down this kind of rocky area to here, and you have a lot of water, you have a bunch of resource nodes as well, and there's a ton of coal to set up coal power plants too. So this spot isn't too bad either. But now for the definition of not too bad. The Rocky Desert starting location. This area really is just not too bad. It doesn't have a ton of nodes, but it has a decent amount of good nodes, so it's pretty easy to start off your base right here. Lots of iron nodes, copper nodes, limestone. You have the entire ocean right next door, so getting water isn't a problem. There's a massive, beautiful forest right next door, so you can get all of your early biomass and biofuel. Got a chunk of clear space to set up your initial factory. And logistically, it's not a bad place to set up trucks or trains or anything like that. And the only thing is you have to clear out like a decent amount of trees. So it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And kind of like everything else, all of your key resources are a pretty good distance away. Like, Caterium node is right back here. So that's the hub. Then you have Caterium right there. And then right beside this biome, you have this cliff area. And if you do a little adventuring, you can find some quartz nodes in there too. And then the most valuable thing is you have a huge pocket of oil right next door in this little archipelago, where you're gonna find 4 pure oil nodes. Of course though, it's quite dangerous, so be careful. And speaking of, that's kind of like one of the 2 cons with this place. It's dangerous as anything. Like, these flies are no joke, especially if you have like 1 or 2 other enemies near them. But the biggest con with this biome is the coal. The coal is a million miles away. Like, oh boy. Like, just doing a quick scan for it, guess what? You're gonna be waiting. Gonna be waiting a long time. And you need coal to set up a coal power plant to make steel get into like tiers 4 and 5. And you're just gonna be waiting. And then suddenly you're gonna see in the map, oh, coal, 1,400 meters away. 1,600 meters, 1,400 meters. Oh boy, the coal is off in space. From your starting location, you have to go through all of this area, and then there's a nice little hill off to the right. You go through there, you keep on scooting, you go up this hill, there's a bunch of gas you have to get through, or build around, and then you end up in this area. And this is where your coal is. You have a 1, 2, 3. Are these pure or normal? Pure coal nodes, hey! So that's at least one good thing. You have your 3 pure coal nodes here, right next to water, and you can set up everything in this beautiful little paradise. It's just getting to that paradise is awfully difficult. And since you need coal to set up your first automated power grid, you're gonna be running around in the woods a lot collecting leaves, unfortunately. However, instead, you could actually just build your coal plants over here in that little beach area I showed earlier. Then you'd have to kind of burn down this entire forest here, get some trucks moving and grooving or some belts, and then build everything here. And if you're building all your coal stuff here, why don't you just have your base over in that northern forest starting place I mentioned earlier, right? So I guess it's like a matter of personal preference, I suppose? Yeah, regardless, both your options are pretty bad. But aside from that huge negative, this biome is perfectly average, but probably more on the difficult side. But anyway, that is kind of what you need to know about all the starting biomes. So a quick recap here. The green fields area is a great place to learn the basics, but oh boy, it's a really difficult late game because of all the logistics infrastructure you're gonna have to put together. The northern forest is beautiful but difficult to work with, but if you move over to the other spicy location, you're close to all the other resource nodes in the game. The Dune Desert is a vast starting area with abundant resources, but far better for advanced players. And then the Rocky Desert is perfectly average except for that huge coal problem you're gonna run into. And then, as I'm sure most of you wanna know, Kibitz, where is the best starting location in the world? And in my opinion, for most players, the best place to start is in that spicy spot in the northern forest. So again, that's way down this main road, through this biome, and just off into this little plateau here. Personally, because you have a little bit of everything so close by, it's worth it messing around with all the terrain issues to get a factory built here. Well, that's gonna be all for this video, so I hope you guys found it informative. And if you did, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more awesome tutorials, tips, and to check out my own playthrough. But for now, have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye-bye.